Hi, Baz. In the Blu-ray special features, The Greatness of Gatsby, we kind of follow you on your journey for preparing
Right.
for this film. What kind of intense research did you do?
Like, I think I'm a research nut. I know I am, and so is CM. And it's one of the great privileges. I mean, we worked with some of the best academics in the world. But it's not only that. It's like literally living the life of F. Scott Fitzgerald. I mean, reading everything, meeting all kinds of experts, living in the places he lived, and really trying to understand not just what it technically was in the 1920s, but what did it feel like to read that book in 1925? I mean, that's why I took that African-American street music called jazz that he put in his book. And everyone went, why are you putting that fad in there that'll never last, or that dangerous music? And mixed it with African-American street music now called hip-hop. I wanted the movie to feel like what it was to read that book in the 20s, because Fitzgerald was not nostalgic. He wasn't he wasn't looking backwards, he was looking in the moment. So that was my task, was to research deeply and understand it deeply, and then do my best to reveal Fitzgerald's book for this moment in this time. Because, right, people often go, oh, they say, oh, it's almost like you tried to make the film for a younger generation. And I didn't specifically do that, but Fitzgerald, I have it here, did say, my idea is always to reach my generation. The wise writer, I think, writes for the youth of his own generation, the critic of the next, and the schoolmasters of ever afterward. And, I wasn't specifically trying to do that, but I did want it to feel like, a 29-year-old guy wrote that in the roaring 20s, not the polite 20s. And I wanted to feel like when you went to the movie, what it might have felt like when you read the book in that period.
And speaking of the research, can you tell us a little bit about the Great Gatsby iBook?
Yeah, the thing about the iBook is, I mean, pretty much we've never done it before, and I think it's unprecedented. And the thing about it is I've tried to, as much as possible, I would like to have added more to it, but at least give a glimpse into the long, epic journey from 10 years ago when I was in Beijing, traveling on the Trans-Siberian, and having thought I knew the book, listening to a recorded version of it and realizing I didn't know it at all. I think to how we made the first image, a painted image, and my wife is actually playing Daisy Buchanan in that painting, to show this iconic image, to get Leonardo interested to come on board, to get a studio to take the risk to fund it, to get the movie made. While we were writing the script, you'll see how we're coming up with the idea of clashing both musical styles, of working with the extraordinary Jay-Z. I mean, everything's in that book. The designs, and then right up to the openings and what we had to do in Cannes. It's really the story I've been on, except for the final chapter, which begins in a few hours, and that is The Great Gatsby is now opening in China, the same city where I had the epiphany to do it 10 years ago. And of that, I am extremely thrilled.
That's beautiful. For the Blu-ray special features, can you tell us what it was like to select different features for the Blu-ray?
On all my movies, we're responsible, that's why they take so long, for everything. I mean, we do the graphics, we do a lot of the visual design, we are very collaborative in the packaging, all those things. But on the Blu-rays, I'm directly involved in the making of those. I've got a great team. But I wanted to show a few things. One, the process. But the other thing is that I've included scenes that on their own, I think, are very strong scenes. Famously, there's the scene where after Gatsby's death, the father comes and reveals himself to Nick Carraway, to see his son, his dead son. And people will ask, well, why did you take those scenes out? And what I found as I was working on the movie, that more and more, once Gatsby was shot, died. Spoiler alert if you just bought the DVD and haven't seen the film. But you wanted it, like in a book, if you film the whole book, it's 7 hours long. I had 2 hours. you wanted the relationship after Gatsby's death to be more and more just about Nick Carraway and a dead person, and to get inside Nick's head. And anytime I put those scenes in, even though they were terrific, and the one with Tom Buchanan I think is terrific, you were breaking up the relationship between Nick's loneliness, Nick's feeling of total isolation, that he was the only one who cared about Gatsby and that everyone else had abandoned him. So that's an example of the sort of thing that I put into the Blu-ray, as well as we've tried to reveal the depth of our research, how serious Leonardo DiCaprio has been in doing what I consider to be the American Hamlet. I mean, he was as obsessed with creating the character of Jay Gatsby as Jay Gatsby was obsessed with the green light. He was absolutely relentless. He would have me up at 3 in the morning and we'd be shooting at 8, just going over and over and over the text. We worked with some of the great academics, you know, the rock star of Fitzgerald, you know, Dr. Anne Margaret, Professor James West, you know, he did Trimalchio, on finding other pieces of material. It was Francis Ford Coppola who wrote the original screenplay for the 70s Gatsby, who counseled me to go looking in other Fitzgerald texts for extra dialogue and ideas. And you know what we found? The idea where Nick Carraway is in the sanitarium is a F. Scott Fitzgerald idea. It was in the notes of the novel he did not complete called The Last Tycoon. So we took his idea and used it so that we could see Nick Carraway struggling with his relationship as he writes his book about this man called Jay Gatsby.
A little party never killed nobody. Of all
Right here, right now is all we've got. Shabba-ba-ba.
Of all the opulent, beautiful party scenes, which one was your favorite to shoot?
Probably in a way, the one in Myrtle's apartment.
Really?
Yeah, because the big ones were highly constructed, then they weren't. You know, then they were improvised. No player in my film is an extra. We give everybody a character name. They know who they are. And that allows them not to be frightened that they're next to Leonardo DiCaprio or spilling a wine on him in a party scene. But that group of actors in Myrtle's apartment, they didn't know. I surprised them. So what I did was, we did the scene, and in the book it describes, it gets all blurry. We drank more. Suddenly people got up and down. They left. They came. They went. You know, sandwiches arrived. It's obviously, and Leonardo's father gave me a book that was written in the 1920s called The Wild Party. So I wanted to make it like The Wild Party. So we only had 20 minutes left. So I turned all the cameras on, and right in the middle we were playing traditional jazz music, and they were all having a bit of fun, and I had my assistant Blake Ternez dressed as the bellhop with all these props and stuff, and I just turned on the cameras, and right in the middle I dropped in NIP from Watch the Throne, Jay and Kanye's album, turned it right up, and let the cameras run for 20 minutes. And everything you see in that party actually happened. For clothes were coming off, pillows were being chucked, drinking of champagne, open, crazy town. And I couldn't run all of it, because some of it got a little too saucy, but it was an awesome thing to watch being filmed.
I think that's all the time we have.
Well, you know what? It was very nice to talk to you.
It was very nice to talk to you.
And I was
as
so
well.
impressed you could quote the song.